Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Huey with Wild Rose Toastmasters, and my special guest is one of our brand new members, Violet Wallace. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
So, Violet, I'll ask you the same thing that I ask everybody, just so that we have a premise or a
Mhm.
foundation. How long have you been in Toastmasters? Tell us about your Toastmaster journey.
Yeah, I've been a member of Toastmasters since October of 2020. So
Oh,
another kind of like newer pandemic Toastmaster, I suppose. And I had come back from the UK that year during the pandemic with not a lot of confidence and not a lot of connections back in the city. A lot of my friends and fellow graduates had moved on to other places and other jobs. So I was really left quite isolated, and not just because of pandemic, but just in my community itself. So I thought Toastmasters would be perfect to kind of reach out, form those connections, relationships again, and being part of something. And it's been amazing ever since. And since I joined Toastmasters, I've been a vice president of education twice for two different clubs. And then I've been a president, vice president of public relations, division director, and now this year I'm trying out area director for the first
I
time.
tell you, you're a busy woman. What can I say? And
Yeah.
in your spare time, you teach.
And my regular, yeah, day-to-day job, I'm a substitute teacher this year. So I'm hoping to get that permanent contract one day. So we'll see how that goes.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Our daughter went through that. She
Oh yeah.
eventually went to Australia and got a permanent position down there, and she's done really well over the years. But for a while there here in Alberta, it was really tough to get enough teaching to get her permanent certificate and stuff.
Yeah, I've
So
had two temporary contracts so far, and
yeah,
every little bit helps. So hoping one day it'll just all line up quite nicely where they keep me for temporary contracts and then they
yeah.
keep me the next year as well. So we'll see how that
So
goes this year.
so having said that, how has Toastmasters helped you with your teaching?
It's helped me quite a lot actually. I came from a pretty rough experience actually going abroad for the first time to teach. I didn't really get a very professional organization to help me with my teaching career. So they
Mhm.
gave me these contracts but never honored them. I ended up bouncing around from different classrooms and subjects and situations instead of the school and the organization kind of honoring what I was supposed to be teaching and doing.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
so that really affected my confidence quite a lot. And then they were quite partial, like you're not good at giving feedback. You're too nice. You're too nice. You're too nice. Like that's got to be the Canadian in you. And I was like, probably
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah, sure. And so
So
since
I'm too
joining,
nice. I'm too nice. What's the problem?
too nice a little bit. Yeah. But then I came back, and since Toastmasters and really getting into like evaluations and not giving feedback to others, I realized, oh, there's a good format to balance like all the things I really enjoyed about
Okay.
someone's performance or writing or whatever it might be. And
Yeah.
then also being able to find those things to actually help improve it and stretch it further. And so for my teaching degree, that's amazing because then I can look at a student's piece of work and be like, okay, yes, very strong writer. I love all these things, but hey, I can notice those tiny little nuances that would just strengthen it further and
Mhm.
push them that extra mile to get those 80s or 90s or whatever grades they're looking for. And so that became a new strength I found in recent years that I really am glad that I have now.
That's good because I think very often in life, all we need is somebody to give us a nudge that believes in us. I
Yeah.
can think back in a long ways back in my education career now, a few teachers over the years that played that role for me and kept me going. And
Yeah.
I've thought back and thought fondly about what they've done for me over the years and think, if they hadn't spoken up, I might have just said, forget it.
Hmm. Yeah, and as a teacher who directed me into this career in the first place, back when I was just a student at Lillian Osborne, I was part of that first immediate graduating class in 2012. And it was about early on in grade 11 where I had this leadership teacher of mine. I was the secretary for the student council. And
Mm,
she just like, Violet, you are so good at connecting the boring stuff we do at school to how people would enjoy it at home. And I was like, what does that
okay.
mean? And she's like, look what you just did for your friend Tasha. You were able to compare the World War II alliances and struggles
Yeah.
to her favorite show, Transformers. And then it clicked, and her essays have been low 50s all year. And that essay, she finally got above a 70 because she was
Wow.
able to kind of make that connection. And you did that, not her teachers, but
Mhm.
you were able to find that connection. So have you thought about teaching? I was like, no, I want to be a meteorologist. I was so into weather sciences. I loved it a lot. I wanted to be a
Yeah.
storm chaser. I was so head in that direction. But then after that little gentle nudge and her helping me, I was an assistant for her classes whenever I had a prep. And
Mhm.
I was like, maybe, this feels comfortable. I like being that helpful person in the room and kind of offering that guidance and making connections to things in our lives to make at least maybe not memorable or like something that we would love or more really fascinated in, but at
Yeah,
least make it understandable.
yeah.
And then I changed my path all entirely. In grade 11, I switched my courses around and entered into teaching. And that was incredible. So I love that teachers can influence us in so many surprising different ways, including maybe being a teacher ourselves.
Well, it's interesting. I come from a family of teachers, so
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
and I amazing for the guy who hated school. I
Mm,
ended up for years teaching at the college level. So, uh,
mm,
it's like, and the one thing is like, I learned how to make it interesting because for me, part of my challenge at school was we had teachers that sucked.
yeah.
No, just not to overemphasize the point, but for example, I had a math teacher, and I can't remember, it was sometime in high school. I can't remember what year it was now.
Mhm,
He was a brilliant man. Um, you know, uh, had studied in Europe and the whole bit. He would do one of those kind. He could fill the board with all the the formulas and stuff. He couldn't teach worth a damn.
mm,
Like all of us were in the room, and my mom actually got me a tutor, uh,
mm,
and he would sit down with me with the book, and he'd just say his name was Mr. Brimacombe, I think.
mhm.
And he'd say, Bob, what do you think they're looking for here? And we talk about it for a bit and say, okay, let's see if we can find a formula that would answer that. And he taught me how to think, to
Mhm.
dialogue it down and say, okay, what's the question? What's the challenge? And then inevitably, there's an answer there. It's the same thing with Toastmasters. When I was district governor, that's what they used to call it in the old days. I remember phoning headquarters, and Stan Stills was the man right under Jerry McCann, who was doing what Dan Rex is doing now. And I had a question, and he said, Bob, thanks for calling. He said, do you happen to have your district leadership manual? I said, yeah, I got this manual here. He said, can you pull it out? Let's see if we can find the answer to that. And so we went through, and can you find page 63 or whatever it was? And about halfway down, there's a paragraph there. What do you think? Would that answer? Yeah, that would answer my question. He said, Bob, phone me anytime, just no problem. Nice way of saying you're an idiot. It's in the manual. Look it up in the book and call me. But he never did that. He showed me
Yeah.
kindly. He took the time to educate me,
Mhm,
and I never forgot that because I did that with
mhm.
my area directors and division directors. I said, hey, let's look in the manual. I got to ask you questions. The answer, I guarantee you the answers are in here because I found them.
Mhm.
And if you don't find it in here, then talk to your division director and then talk to us. But
Yeah.
it look in the book first. But again, that's a part of learning. I mean, that's our theme for this year with Wild Rose is learn it forward, which is exactly what we were talking about before we started this recording. You know,
Yeah.
we learn sometimes by doing what we're doing, and we learn in the process. In other words, we
Yeah.
don't sit there and wait till we've learned it all and researched it all and know it all before we do it. We step out, we do it, and we learn by doing it. And that's essentially what you did by being a division director last year, and then
Mhm.
volunteering to be an area director this year, which is the earlier step. But now you're going back and completing that. I think you'll be much better an area director because of what you did as a division director, because your job as a division was helping the area directors.
Yeah, it was a very interesting choice as well to like go at this route instead of sort of following the steps up that little ladder, I suppose, in leadership for Toastmasters. I had a couple people who were like, Violet, you're busy. You're such a busy person. I don't know if area director will be best for you because of, all these reasons like you're tutoring, you're a substitute teacher, you
Yep.
volunteer. So maybe instead of that, try division director. And it was actually Rebecca, who is one of our members as well,
Yeah.
who really pointed out to me, like, wow, you're such a hard worker. You put everything on your shoulders. If you go in the division director role, you're going to learn delegation very, very quickly.
Yeah,
Because
that's
in
for
that
sure.
role, you're not necessarily needing to go to the clubs. You have someone who can go to the clubs, your area directors.
Yeah.
So
And,
that's
and
something you want to pursue. I was
yeah.
like, yes, please. Oh my gosh. And I'm
And
really glad I went
that's
that
the
way.
truth to it, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know, at the division level, it's more about delegating and supervision and
yeah,
supporting the people who are actually out there visiting the clubs and doing things in the clubs and helping, you know, being involved you know, like Diane is with Wild Rose, or like even like you were last year, a little bit coming and visiting us. You know,
yeah.
that's where the rubber hits the road, and it's the connections with the people.
Yeah, and then you got to also see I had 5 area directors in my division, and they all did the role in 5 very different ways. And so I got to observe that
Oh,
as like being
wow.
their supervisor and seeing how they managed the role, how they collaborated and helped each
Yeah.
other. Because it's a unique situation. I had 2 very brand new area directors, and then I had 2 very experienced area directors, and then I had to find a replacement area director all in
Wow.
1 year. So it's quite interesting, like little mini punches kind of coming your way. And you're like, oh gosh, what do I do? But then I'm like, you've networked, you've been to other clubs, you've been
Yeah.
at area council meetings, you know people, you
Yeah.
can do this. And then I got very, very lucky in around Christmas time, actually. I'm surprised he responded to me over the Christmas break. But Travis Unger from Dawnbreakers, he was like, hey, I'm actually from Grand Prairie. Did you know that? I'll be your area 44 director because I'm from that area. I was like, oh my God, perfect. That's amazing. And so we
Mhm.
as a team have to adjust to another person coming in, and we just kind of made it work when it was a very unique little situation where 2 of the area directors were quite close.
Yeah.
The probably kind of pairs that kind of formed very close because they collaborated on the speech contest. They
Yeah.
did a couple educational sessions for their clubs, and they just kind of had unique ways of doing things. Then Travis came in and offered even additional insights because he's been area governor before. And so it was just kind of unique to kind of almost fit in those meetings. Of course, follow the agenda, have the
Hmm.
discussion, kind of lead things. But hearing how they all kind of handled it in different ways, I was like, I'm going to take some of this because I think if I have to do this role, I like that. So I'm not a fan of that, but I can see why it's purposeful and
Hmm.
really kind of hold on to even what they taught me as a division director. And now I'm in the area director position. I can use those. So it's quite a unique way to do the role and kind of go back a little bit, but also really go forward with it based on what I've learned from a different position.
And from what Cheryl said, you know, some of the areas or the clubs in the area are suffering. So that'll be good that you've got some experience to bring to help them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that makes a big difference. I mean, it sounds like you had a crash course in leadership last year in delegation, and that never does you wrong. That
No,
never ever does you wrong, I tell you, you know.
yeah, it was definitely good to have that lesson because when I was VP Ed for both clubs at the same time, Core Development and Northern Lights, I just did it all. I was like, okay, cool. We don't have a speaker this week. I'll do it. Oh, we don't have a Toastmasters. Well, I'll do it. And I
Mm.
just never really learned that lesson of like, you can ask for help. You don't have to do it all. It's okay.
There,
And I didn't really learn that lesson until I reached that point of like, I don't want to go to a meeting. I'm so
yeah,
tired. I'm
yeah,
really carrying this club. I got the club the DCP points that they needed with my pathways because I had 3 going at the time.
yeah,
It's a lot of work and I don't want that anymore. I really need to be like, well, hold the brakes, reach out to the executive and
yeah.
actually have that discussion. And so luckily for the transition into the following year, I was able to have that conversation with the executive going like, here's where I'm at. And I'm sorry I didn't come to you all sooner, but maybe we can figure something out. And they
Well,
appreciated
and
that.
that's important. I think over the years that's one of the most important leadership lessons I ever learned was to ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, and what I found inevitably, unless somebody was actually too busy or overcommitted or whatever, whether I was writing a book and wanted help or whatever it happened to be, inevitably they said yes. You
Hmm.
know, they were more in tune to say yes than I was to ask them, and
Yeah.
that allowed me to do quite a lot of things in my life, both within Toastmasters and outside Toastmasters, simply because I had the guts to say, "Hey, I need help." You know, that was kind
Yeah.
of like my year as an area director. I started it literally before I even finished my first year. I didn't know what an area contest was. I didn't know, you know, and so I asked some of my clubs, "Oh yeah, we'll help you with that, Bob. You know, we'll show you how to." So the first series, the clubs did it to show me how to do the meetings, and because I didn't know, I was a brand new Toastmaster, and you know, at the end of the year, we did very well. So,
Yeah.
and that's because they taught me my job.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works, isn't it? So
Yeah,
let
for
let me
sure.
ask you another quick question because we're
Yeah.
running out of trying to keep these around 15 or 16 minutes.
Perfect.
What was the attraction to come to Wild Rose for you?
Although, yeah, at this point at Northern Lights, that's been my home club since I joined Toastmasters. It has expanded so much. We're getting closer, closer to those 30 members. And when you are in a club like that, that meets every week, it helps, right, to get into those roles and sort of
Mhm.
have those speeches. And it's just always a dynamic meeting, which I love. But at the same time, you start to realize you're kind of fading away a little bit because the executive is focusing on the newer members. We have a huge
Okay.
influx of like 6, 7 members, and of course they're going to need help.
Yeah.
And so then you start to kind of feel like you're fading away a little bit. And then soon I took on a temporary teaching contract at the start of February. And I was like, oh gosh, now I don't want to go to a meeting on a Saturday because I
Okay.
am so busy Monday to Friday and I have to
Yeah.
play catch up. I have
Yeah.
to find resources. I've never taught junior high before. I'm kind of struggling a little bit. So I couldn't make it to those Saturday meetings. And
Mm.
then I was looking at my experience as a leader already in Toastmasters in my short 4 years almost, basically. And I was like, I think it's time to challenge myself. Let's go check out advanced club meetings and see how things go. So I did kind of shop around a little bit. And
Mhm.
then when I saw who was in Wild Rose, like Ken Tanner, yourself, Bob, Rebecca, and Carol, and just a few others that I've seen their names everywhere. It seems like if I look on the D99 website, I saw your names. I was
Yeah.
like, that club seems really interesting. And what is their schedule like? Oh, once a month. That if I have to go into a really full-time teaching job again, I
Yeah.
can make that work for
Yeah.
sure. And so there's like many appeals to it. It's just it's an ideal time. It's an
Mhm.
advanced club where I can step myself up a little further with my speaking and
Okay.
kind of do speeches again as well, because I haven't done a speech. Just the normal, regular 5 to 7 minute speech. I haven't done that in a while. I've done VP Ed training. I've held 2 hour sessions, 3 hour sessions,
Yeah.
but not that like golden 5 to 7 minute speech again.
Well,
So
make sure you
I
talk
just,
to Carol and get yourself slotted in.
yeah, absolutely. I for sure want to think. I probably won't be until October because in September I'm going to Europe as well, Bob. Oddly
You're
enough.
going, you're
So
going to Europe too?
yeah, I'm going to be in London, England for a week from the 13th to the 20th of September.
Good for you.
I'm turning 30 in September, so it's a big like kind of birthday getaway with a bunch of friends.
That's a perfect thing.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
perfect thing. So, just in conclusion, what would you suggest to people who are watching this? Hopefully, we find people watch these who are thinking along the lines of what you were thinking in terms of an advanced club as maybe the next step in their evolution as Toastmasters.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, of course, to kind of look at your schedule, figure out what club works for you. But with Wild Rose, what you'll get here is we're starting to get some newer, younger members into the club because I know myself quite young and we have a
Yeah.
couple other like younger members too. But we also have that very rich experience too with some of the members who've been in Toastmasters for so long that there's no judgments. It's a very, very safe place amongst them because they know they were like us many, many years ago, and they know the journey and they know the steps that they
Yeah.
need to take. And so it's a great place to kind of come and see that wisdom, that guidance, and also see where we can get a little creative with us young people who have some strange ideas sometimes.
And that's exactly why I like to see some younger people who are less than senior citizens joining us.
Absolutely.
Not,
And it can
not that I
definitely help
don't
with your
not that I
career.
don't love our senior citizens, but none of us were senior citizens when we joined 25 years ago. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and the nice thing, like I said at the thing, who's going to take care of us in 10 years? You know,
Yeah.
we need to be building that leadership and building that involvement, and that's part of the purpose behind doing these videos is maybe saying, hey, come hang out with some amazing people. We meet on the last Thursday of the month, with the exception of December and June. So check the email and the URL on the thing and come and check us out. So Violet,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being part of this.
Of
I will
course.
see you at the next meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you as well, Bob.
Okay, let me.